Hello there, and thank you for joining me for this video all about our Boston West Academy March Million Minutes campaign that we're running this year alongside our World Book Day activities. So just to begin with, let's put it into the picture of why we are focusing so heavily on reading and why Boston West believes that reading is an important thing to be doing with our children. Reading opens gateways to so many different opportunities for our children. It's something that we want them to thoroughly enjoy and develop a love for reading during their time with us. And we need your help to be able to take them on that journey with us and be able to impress upon them the importance of reading at home as well as at school. In the words of the great Dr. Seuss, the more that you read, the more you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. And this is so true. Reading is not just a pleasurable activity, although I would argue that that's one of the most important reasons for doing it. It's also a way of developing our children's horizons and showing them things that are out in the wider world and giving them things to aspire to. So why is reading so important? It's great fun, first and foremost, and it can transport us into whole new worlds and experiences. Think of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, the amazing creation of that fantastic author who manages to create Willy Wonka's chocolate factory with all those peculiar inventions and those incredible sweets, the little Oompa Loompa characters and the characters of the children that we are so drawn into. It's a hugely exciting fantasy world for us to go into. Where the Wild Things Are, when Max goes into the jungle and meets a whole range of strange and unusual creatures, and he manages to tame them all and return back home in time for tea. Perhaps it was when we were looking at things like the Greek myths and looking at how Greek mythology is linked in their history, but finding out about the heroines and the heroes of the past and the way that things were explained. Natural phenomena perhaps were explained through the ways of the Greek myths there. And then it might be about broadening our children's horizons and looking at different cultures and looking at fairy tales and folk tales from all over the world and getting our children to have an awareness of the world beyond their normal everyday life. So why else is reading important then? It gives us things to aspire to. When children read, they're not just going into fantasy worlds, they're also exploring the real world. They're finding about careers that they may want to go into when they get older. Even our youngest children might read a book about fire engines and decide actually they want to be a firefighter when they grow up, something like that. So it's about opening up their horizons and letting them see things that they perhaps would aspire to. It can also help us to deal with things. Sometimes our children have to deal with some very difficult things in their young life, and story is a fantastic way of approaching this in a non-threatening way and allowing our children to be able to explore their feelings through the medium of story. It's a form of escapism and it's great for our mental well-being. We've spent a lot of time over the last few months being locked down in our homes, being stuck at home and not being able to do the things that we'd normally enjoy doing. And so reading for many people has become even more important escapism because it takes them out of their everyday humdrum life and it takes them into fantasy worlds or exciting new worlds where they can explore different things. We can also find out fascinating facts about the world around us, going from our very young children, looking at something like the Very Hungry Caterpillar, where they're perhaps, without realising it, learning about the life cycle of a caterpillar and it's changing into a butterfly in there. It might be about finding out about history from the past, looking at geography, maybe looking at different countries around the world. It might be things about trying to open their eyes to global issues like pollution, for example. Or again, it could be something linked to finding out about space and the wider world. A whole host of things that the children can learn from their reading. Did you know this is such an important fact? Reading for pleasure is the single biggest factor in success later in life outside of an education. Study after study has shown that children who read for pleasure are the ones who are most likely to fulfill their ambitions. If your child reads, they will succeed. It's that simple. And that is such an important message that we want to get across today, that actually reading is one of the most important things that will impact upon your child's future and their life as they grow older. It's not just about their time in school, it's about their life beyond that. And that's key that we try and promote that time here. And I think it's really important that we continue to realise that actually the amount of reading our children do is constantly helping them to build up that vocabulary and their life experiences, which is going to help them to have a far better future. One thing that parents often say to us teachers is, how can I help my child at home? What can I do? And the most important thing that you can do at home with your child is to read, either reading to them, listening to them read, sharing stories with them. That is the most important thing, arguably, that's going to help your child's life chances. So what is the March Million Minutes? Well, this was an idea that we came up with to try and really promote lots of reading over the month of March. And it seemed really good to link it alongside World Book Day on the 4th of March and also the children's return to school. So we've got some of the work around the March Million Minutes going on via remote learning, and some of it will be happening in the classroom. So this is our ambitious aim, and it is hugely ambitious. It's to collect a million minutes worth of reading during the month of March from our whole school community. This is including our pupils, our families, and all of our staff. So we're trying to collate a whole million minutes worth of reading. This is a great opportunity for us to raise awareness of reading that's happening all of the time and to promote strong reading habits in our pupils. Now, it was felt this year it's really important, possibly more than ever, whilst we will be celebrating World Book Day and having a special day that we're dedicating to reading, to actually try and instill something that was going to foster good reading habits for a longer period of time than just the World Book Day celebrations. And so my intention is that we'll actually be looking at trying to promote strong reading habits through the whole of the month of March, and that this is something that the children then become really used to and continue to accrue those minutes of reading over the time beyond March. So how are we going to achieve this? Well, during the month of March, we're going to have lots of reading activities going on, both in school and through Google Classroom, to maximise the number of minutes we possibly can spent reading. There are going to be activities linked to World Book Day on March the 4th. If you have a child that's learning at home at the minute through remote learning, there'll be lots of activities that will be posted on the remote platform of Google Classroom. And also for those children in school, there'll be activities that are happening that day. But these are also going to be continuing when the children return to school on the 8th of March, and we'll be having a huge focus on reading. How can you help them? Now, this is what I really need you to come on board and help us with, because trying to accrue a million minutes is a hugely ambitious task, but we think it's doable. So how can you help? When your child is in school, then teachers are going to keep a record of the minutes they're reading, so you don't need to worry about that at all. The teachers in school will let me know at the end of each week exactly how many minutes worth of reading has happened in their classrooms, and I will be collating that. But I need your help to collect in the minutes of reading that are happening outside school. Now, alongside just collecting in minutes of reading outside school, this isn't just about getting your child to read from their school reading book or their reading for pleasure book when they get home. This is about more than that. We want our children to be aware of all the reasons that reading happens at home and the reasons behind that. Okay, so what we're asking for is not just for the children's reading minutes to be collected in, but also any minutes of reading that are happening within the family home. So, for example, I've used these pictures here as an illustration. If you've got an older child at home who's perhaps studying for exams at the moment, any time that they spend reading or working on schoolwork, that could be included within your minutes that week. And talk to your children about the fact that, the older sibling is still using the skill of reading in their everyday education and work there. Ebooks, if anybody's reading from a Kindle or using the Apple Books app to be able to read books, that can be included there. Things like using instructions, if you're putting up something like a set of shelves, or if something's gone wrong and you're having to read the instructions to try and work out how you might repair it, that can be included in it too. If you're reading a newspaper, be it online or in a physical newspaper sense, that's absolutely fine. Include that reading time too. And all the time be talking to your children about this. Can you see that this reading's happening? And isn't it interesting that reading doesn't just happen in school from a book? Obviously, we can include reading time. So if you're at home and people are reading for pleasure, please include those minutes. They are crucial, and it's really good that our children see examples of other people at home reading for pleasure, not just themselves. But things like work emails coming in, that can be reading time that can be added. Reading from a recipe book if you're making something unusual and you're trying to use the recipe book as a way forward through that. Talk to your children about all these different reasons for reading and think about how those minutes add up over the whole week. So when you've done that, then what we'd really like you to do is a small task that will happen every Friday. Now, I've prepared a Google form that you'll be sent via Parent Hub every Friday, and it's a really simple thing to be able to fill in. You simply will get an email that looks a bit like the one that's on the screen at the moment, and there'll be a link on there for you to click. You just click that link. It will take you to this form which says March Million Minutes and gives a bit of a background to what the March Million Minutes campaign is like. Once you get to that form, you've got a selection of options for how many minutes your whole family has spent reading this week. Now, to help me to just collate this information more easily, we've asked you to round it up to the nearest hour. Okay, so if, for example, you'd read for approximately 130 minutes, you'd be rounding it down to 120 minutes on this one. Or if it was 160 minutes, you'd be rounding it up to 180, for example. It doesn't have to be that exact, as long as it's roughly around the right amount of time, and you simply click one of those options. You just go to the button, press it, and then you submit it, and that's it. So it's go to the form, select the option, submit. That's your job done. Each week then you'll be sent a new form to complete, so please do complete it every week on the Friday, and that will be great because I'll be able to take all that information and keep adding it and report to you on how we're doing about meeting our target. I'll add them all together and I'll show the responses on something similar to those of, for those of you that were here with us last year. We had the Shareometer when we were trying to share 10,000 stories last year. And each week we moved the Shareometer up depending upon how many story shares were happening. So it'll look very similar to this, but this time we're trying to hit that million minutes mark through the whole of March. Okay, and each week, as I say, I'll be giving you updates and I'll be telling you how close we are getting to our target. So thank you for taking this time to watch this video. I do hope it's made it clear about the reasons behind wanting to do the March Million Minutes campaign this year, and also how you can help to support your child and to put the information into school so that we're able to collate all those minutes. I really do thank you for your help with this and your support, and I will be in touch about how close we're getting to our target over the next few weeks. Thanks for listening.